On November 24, 2009, an enormous cave accident happened. There's hardly any breathing room when caving or exploring caves. John Jones, 26 years old, was ready to enter the Nutty Putty Cave in Utah, USA to explore this small cave. But little did John know that he was going to bury himself in his own grave. On November 24, at 8 p.m., John and his brother Josh, along with a group of 10 other members, began exploring a cave called Nutty. The first hour was a lot of fun. They found the largest cavern in the cave, known as the Big Slide. They got into a fight about who arrived first because it was so simple. This prompted them to challenge one another to enter the birth canal, the most hazardous area of the cave. Few people could fit through the birth canal due to its extreme narrowness. John was leading, with his brother Josh and the other members of the gang trailing behind. Gradually, they began to pass through the birth canal. Just a little further down, the cave splits in two directions and John, in the excitement, goes into the left cave. However, John didn't know that the cave he was going into wasn't the birth canal but a place where no one had ever been before. As he went further, the cave became even smaller. He had no room to move his hands, his feet. John knew he was in big trouble. He needed a place to turn around as soon as possible. Finally, he reaches a place called Corkscrew, where only small and flexible people can fit. However, a few years ago, a 16-year-old boy got stuck in the same place, but he was only 5 feet 7 inches tall. Even then, it took him a total of 14 hours to get out. But John was 6 feet tall. His chest was too small to accommodate his attempts to breathe. He moves forward and, for some reason, he sees a hole in front of him. John believes that this hole will allow him to escape. John thus makes every effort to enter this hole. However, he discovers that the hole was a dead end after entering. John was stuck in a 10 by 18-inch hole, upside down. He was already unable to move his arms or legs because to the hole's limited size, and the condition was made worse by gravity from above. He angrily shouts out to his brother Josh because he is unable to leave on his own. Where John had come into the cave head first, Josh comes in upside down so he doesn't have to turn upside down and sees that only John's legs are visible, as if the hole has completely John. Josh tries to pull John out by putting his feet between John's feet, but instead of coming out of the tunnel, John goes further in. Despite an hour of effort, when there is no success, Josh goes out of the cave to seek help from professional rescuers. And 3 hours later, at 12:30 a.m., the first rescuer, Susie Matolo, arrives there. Susie was only 5 feet 3 inches tall, so she could easily reach John. But what Susie thought, John's situation was even worse. Susie tries to reassure John by saying, "You'll be out soon. Don't worry." To this, John says, "Hi, Susie. Thank you for coming, but I need to get out as soon as possible." Susie gives her all to get John out, but after 2 hours of effort, when John doesn't come out, Susie has to come out of the cave due to fatigue. John's wife and daughter and 30 other rescuers had arrived outside the cave and were thinking of different ideas to get John out. Finally, everyone agrees on the idea of tying a rope to John's leg and pulling him out. So, one rescuer ties a rope to John's legs, and the rest of the rescuers try to pull the rope from the big slide. But there was a big problem here. The rope was not proving to be very effective due to rubbing against the ground. Drilling a pulley system inside the tube was the only option left to handle this. However, there was still a problem. Just getting the drilling machine inside the cave took an hour. After that, drilling and building a pulley system could take several hours. John also didn't have much time left because a doctor who was among the rescuers who came to save him reported that John's blood was running low. Realizing the urgency of the situation, the rescuers decided to drill a pulley system inside the tunnel to facilitate John's safe extraction. However, this process was time-consuming, and John's condition was deteriorating rapidly. His eyes and mouth were turning red, and he was experiencing difficulty breathing. After hours of relentless effort, the rescuers finally managed to pull John out of the hole. However, the ordeal had taken a toll on his body, and he succumbed to his injuries shortly after. John's family was devastated by the loss, and they struggled to come to terms with the fact that a seemingly small mistake had led to such a tragic outcome. The rescuers attempted to retrieve John's body from the cave, but the task proved too challenging. The body was wedged too tightly in the narrow passage, and extracting it without causing further damage was deemed impossible. In the aftermath of this tragic incident, the entire Nutty Putty Cave was sealed off with cement to prevent any future accidents. John Jones' body remains entombed within the cave,